Welcome back to Rides and Drives Team Radio. I'm Harvey. She's Kaz, and we're excited because it's race week. Specifically, it is time for the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix.
I'm so
Now,
excited for this race.
yes, I am too, but I think it's weird that they call an oval race a Grand Prix.
I do too. It is odd, and I don't really know why. But
I
I
think it's
it
just vestigial from when the Nashville race used to be a street race, and
sure.
they moved it to the oval. So fine.
Well, regardless of what you call it, this is one of my favorite races on the calendar. Last year, I top three easily. This
Yeah.
race is always dynamic and exciting. The track is really, really fun and fast.
Yep.
Super speedway guys, it's not a misnomer. They are going very, very quickly along this track. And there's some changes this year
Yeah, and
that might mix it up even further.
well, yeah, the most obvious change is we go from a 225 lap race to a 300 lap race. So that adds
Mhm.
100 miles to this race. So we get 100 miles more excitement, which
I
is
mean,
going
when
to
you
be,
consider that many ovals are 250 miles total, adding an additional 100 to the end of a race that was already fairly long is really exciting, and it's quite a lot of extra distance, which really changes tire strategy, pit stop strategy, fuel strategy. Pretty exciting.
yeah, and it's interesting because the drivers are excited about it. Anytime they get more driving, they're
Mhm.
happy. Had the opportunity to talk to Marcus Armstrong earlier this week, and he was clear on the fact that he is excited to be driving here. And even with the heat and everything that's going to be going on this weekend, he's really excited that it is a longer race.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, the other big change is we have alternate tires on an oval for the first time since 2024.
And
So
only the third time in
ever.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It,
it's really interesting.
Yeah, the last time they had an alternate tire on an oval was at the Nashville race in 2024. So there is precedent. They do have data from that race that they can use, but the compounds aren't going to be exactly the same as they were then. Firestone obviously changes that up. So
Nor are the
practice,
cars exactly the same as they were
yeah.
in 2024. We're looking at a really different level of downforce. It's entirely possible that all of that data means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, there's a lot less downforce on the car this year than last year, so that's going to change things. Having two tire compounds, not knowing, what the degradation will be on the alt. So, obviously the alternate tires should be faster, but how quickly will it degrade? And simultaneously, how long will that primary compound last? That'll be the
Mhm.
big issue is if you can, how much can you squeak out of that? So that's going to be a really interesting question is whether the tires or the alternate tires are going to be the limiting factor on stint distance or fuel, right?
Sure.
If you can run your tires to the fuel distance, great. What it may mean is that teams come in and short fuel, when they put the alts on, and that way they can get a quicker pit stop, be lighter coming out, maybe stretch that tire a little longer because they're not putting quite so much wear on it early.
Sure.
Lots of stuff to look at.
Yeah, there are a dozen different minute details that this calls into question. A pit stop is far less straightforward now, and that is really, really exciting for all of us. They are required to run two stints on the alternate tire. The other thing that's really going to go into this is the race is a floating start time because we
Mhm.
are following the World Cup final. If the race goes forward at 5 p.m. where it's currently scheduled, we're probably looking at an 8 p.m. and it stays light in this part of the country till 8:30. Chances are we're not looking at too much temperature difference on the track if we start at 5. But
Right.
let's say that World Cup final goes into extra time. Let's say it goes all the way to the end when they do the little kickies. It's entirely possible that we are looking at a track that has cooled off really significantly by the end of the race. If you get that late start, do you take the gamble that it will cool off enough and save those two alternate stints for the end when you may be able to stretch, up to
Yeah.
up to five
Or
extra laps out of these faster tires?
yeah,
There's so much
yeah.
going
Or
into this.
do you run one early to get it out of the way? Run, your primaries, the rest until that last stint. There are going to be a lot of ways to look at this.
Mhm.
It's also a track that does breed cautions.
It's a
So
tire eater too,
yeah,
which makes this even more. We had two just split tires last year, not punctured by anything, just the tire degraded to the point where it fell apart. Um,
yeah, unfortunately for
ah,
Pato, and Alex, of course, managed to luck his way into turning that into an
Alex is
undercut.
the only driver I've ever seen who can turn his tire falling apart into an undercut. That was absolutely unreal. But yeah, it's this track is not kind to tires.
Yeah,
And I think that that makes this even more interesting.
I think we're going to have a really interesting race from a strategy standpoint. Again, we did have yellows last year,
Yeah,
and
you're so right about that.
those happen on a high speed oval like this. So I wouldn't be surprised if yellows come out and really throw strategies. The strategists are gonna have to be on top of it and have a lot of different scenarios already baked in their heads
I think that
because
this is one particular race where we may actually, we've seen two sets of tires on all of our road courses, all of our street circuits for quite some time now. We have a good idea. I know the compound is different year to year, the car is different year to year, but we have a good idea largely about when the right time is to use which set for many of those courses that we've seen this happen multiple times. But here, I really think that we're going to see a lot of different options and strategies playing out. And that is a really fun thing to consider because
yeah.
we really don't have a right answer.
No, things that make this even more difficult for them to strategize about is practice time.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it's 10 a.m. It's going to be hot, right? It's and getting hotter through the practice. So they're going to learn stuff there, but how much are they really going to learn about tire dag if say that temperature tomorrow is 10 degrees hotter than start temperature on Sunday?
I'm
Sorry,
I'm
not
about
tomorrow, on Saturday. Uh,
I'm
yeah,
about 2.5 hours from Nashville, so pretty similar temperatures here. And around 10 a.m., that's when we really start to spike heat here. That's when
right.
you go up from 79 to 86. It gets brutal quickly at that time. And then by the time we're looking at 7, 8 p.m., it's a fairly temperate, I don't know, it's a fairly temperate 81.
Yeah.
So
No, so I practice will be critical, but they're really going to have to make a lot of inferences as to, this 10 a.m. practice. Now they will run a highline practice at the end of the day. I think it's 6 p.m. They're running a
okay.
highline practice after qualifying. So qualifying is going to happen in the dead heat of the afternoon. So that'll be interesting as well. So there's we're just going to have to see what Saturday brings to understand how teams may attack Sunday.
Yeah. This is a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, and for a race that's always exciting.
Yeah.
So Indy's done a good job of bringing more to this between a little bit longer race and adding the joy of tire strategy. So I think that's important. The next thing that is important is how meaningful this is to so many drivers right now.
Sure.
I mean, we've got a championship race that is way tighter than it was last year at this time,
That's
right?
very true.
Last year at this time, Alex had a 105-point lead over Pato. Today, he has a 56-point lead over Kyle Kirkwood, 65-point lead over Christian Lundgaard, and 66-point lead over David Malukas. So, and a race weekend, the winner gets 51 points. So if someone does well and Alex struggles at this race or whatever, that tightens up a bit more. And, we're looking at a championship fight going down to the end. So,
Yeah,
uh, you
this
know,
is in a scenario in my brain where any of the three drivers following him win the race, and Alex is the victim of some bad luck. Like we said, this track's a tire eater. There are always cautions here. Alex doesn't have to make a mistake to DNF this race. In that scenario, we've got somebody within 10 points of Alex Palou with so many races left in the season.
yep.
Uh, I don't think even at the beginning, after the first 3 to 5 races of this year, I thought that it would be that close. I definitely thought it would be closer than last year, but I didn't think that I would be legitimately looking at a championship fight. And at this point, I genuinely am.
Yeah. We've got the three that I've talked about. We've
Hmm.
got Kirkwood, Lundgaard, and Malukas. And even after that, there are a few within, around that 100-point range behind, which mathematically they're not out of it, but they'd have to leap
It's
a
tough,
bunch
but
of
it's not
people.
insurmountable. But
Right.
it's tough.
But
Um,
but beyond the championship fight for these guys, there are also a bunch of drivers that this race is going to be important to because of all the open seats available and all the contracts that haven't been settled yet for next
yeah,
year. So
I
who are
think
you going to be looking at?
I'm really interested in watching all three of the rookies. So rumor has it Meyershank is looking very seriously at Kyle Collette, and he's looking very seriously right back at them, as I would be
I
if
would be.
Meyershank was interested in putting
That's
me in one
I
of their
I
cars.
think that's the second best available seat right now
Yeah,
behind the number 9.
behind Dixon's empty PNC car. Yeah. I think that but it's not finalized. Nothing
No.
is. So this is going to be a very important race for him. If he's in a situation where, yeah, they're in very serious talks, but we're still making decisions, a bad result here makes things harder, and a good result here is great. I'm also really interested in what happens with Dennis Hauger, because I think that, earlier in the season, before the last 2 weeks, anybody who was looking for a young driver to put in their seat was just discounting him because he had that pathway with Andretti. Andretti decided, hey, Marcus has done great for us and we want to keep him. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Marcus
Right.
has done very well this season. But it does create a little bit of a, yeah, it feels like Hauger's starting a lap behind, everybody else who had the chance to talk to people and pitch themselves have already done so. There may be people who have decisions half made and like, hey, Hauger's available, but we've already invested so much time into this. So we're just going to stay the course. A good performance for him reminds everybody that he's still available. I
Yep.
think that's really important. And then, there's the constant Mick Schumacher talk. He's not done enough yet.
Right. Yeah, he
And
he needs to have a fabulous second half of the season.
yeah,
And not to save his seat, but I think to really just build that momentum moving forward.
yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked if RLL stayed with him because of everything that he brings. But he's not going to be happy if he's not delivering results. And at some point, if you're not a happy driver, you might look at it and go, well, maybe this isn't the series for me, and he moves back to sports cars.
yeah,
Who knows? But for him to start winning, to start building or not winning, but delivering good results and build that momentum, secures his spot at RLL and makes him feel better about where he's going.
yeah, definitely. There's been so much scrutiny and attention on Mick Schumacher this season, understandably so, but it does add a lot of extra pressure. And having every motorsport coverage outlet in Germany write a nice piece about how he did a great job at Nashville would be really great for his momentum moving forward. So
Right.
I think that that's got to matter for him. Who are you? I'm all about the rookies. Who are you looking at?
I really think Santino, this is a opportunity for him to
Yep.
make another step forward, and I think it's important for AJ Foyt. They haven't delivered the way we thought they would yet this season based on their finish to last season.
Hmm.
And I think the other team that I want to look at is Ed Carpenter Racing. Again, another team we expected more from this season that
Sure.
really just hasn't seemed to bring the results to the table on a consistent basis. They have two solid drivers. They've got a great engineering partnership. They've got their big sponsor, in Java House and all of that. And I just surprised we haven't seen more.
This is Rasmussen's kind of race as well. So it's one of those things where it's absolutely worth having a driver like Christian Rasmussen on your team. And I'm not insinuating his seat is in danger. It's not. Ed loves him and will continue to move forward with him. And I'm so happy about that. But like, he is so excellent at a very specific type of race and quite good at other races.
Right.
If he doesn't put those great performances out when these types of races come up, you start to forget about him a little bit, and you forget why he's so exceptional. And we
Right.
really haven't, he's had some moments so far this season, but we really haven't seen the Christian Rasmussen show yet. I This track has all the potential in the world to bring it out in him. So I'm hoping I've got my eye on him as well, specifically from Ed Carpenter. And then,
Yeah.
I do, wouldn't it be funny if Christian Lundgaard nailed an oval right after getting the boot from McLaren?
Well, it would certainly do two things. One, it would, be a really nice,
Little
thumb at the
resume
nose,
booster.
a little resume booster. And, the assumption is he's the number one driver for the Open Ganassi seat, and
Mhm.
putting in a good oval performance, I think locks that up for him.
I think if he puts in a top five performance here, it's pick your seat.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it wasn't,
There would
but
have to be something really weird behind the scenes for him
yeah.
to not wind up at Ganassi.
Yeah, and that's the rumor, is that the reason he hasn't, locked down that seat yet is he may not be the best team player on the grid.
That
And
is what I was insinuating. But of
yeah,
course, that's not something that we've ever seen. So
no.
who knows? But yeah, people wanting to work with, and look, the team that worked with Scott Dixon, who must be the most positive guy in the world to work with long term, so professional, genuinely very kind. Uh,
Yep.
I I could understand wanting to make sure that whoever fills those shoes is somebody with those same qualities.
Yeah, you don't want to bring someone in who's going to totally disrupt the team dynamic.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, and that'll be a big part of the interview process that I'm sure they're going through right now with him
Mhm.
and all the other drivers. The other driver who has doesn't have anything to prove from a contract standpoint, but maybe does just from a um, I've signed my contract and I want to prove to everybody that you made the right decision, is Marcus Armstrong.
Yeah, certainly.
He's now the lead driver at MSR.
And
So
MSR put a lot of money into him.
yeah,
Deservedly so. That guy, I think, could have been a contender for that Ganassi seat if he had really put himself forward for it. So, um, great job to MSR keeping him signed. And I agree. Marcus has come very close to a win this season.
a couple
And
of
I know how
times.
badly he wants it. He's very earnest about how he feels good about his consistency, but he wants the splashy moments.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's not like he doesn't perform well on ovals.
he does.
He's done very well these last 2 years on the ovals.
Indy
He's
500, anybody? That guy
Yeah,
almost won the race.
right. He was leading going into the last lap. So, I mean, it's not like and Indy wasn't the only one that he's done well on.
Yeah.
So he's someone you can look at in this race, which is honestly why I love IndyCar racing. because we can have this conversation about 10 drivers, right?
Yeah.
And these are the potential to win the race. No other racing series, it feels like, do you have this kind of parity because the quality of the driving is so high.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a bunch of pikers here. You get a world-class driver like Mick Schumacher to come into the series and you realize, oh, this is hard.
Yeah.
And so watching guys like Marcus Armstrong figure it out and get faster and faster, even though he came from a road course background. And now he's a complete IndyCar driver. It was interesting talking to him about the race. I asked him specifically about moving it from, to a longer race and the kind of stresses that a high speed short oval puts on you. And he said, it's crazy the amount of force that goes through your body in this race because of the 14-degree banking in the corners. The straights are banked at 9 degrees here.
Yeah.
So, you're constantly under pressure here. Your body is elevates your heart rate. He was funny. He said, and we posted this on TikTok and Instagram, but his quote was, "Yeah, you'll burn 2,000 calories in a race." That's it. That he said that's a pre-breakfast workout for Scott Dixon, but for someone like me, that's a lot. So, um, this is going to be a physical race. So I think it's also going to favor fit drivers. So you look at Newgarden,
I was going to say, I want to talk about Newgarden here. Speaking of
yeah,
physical race, look, he's tight-lipped about where he is on the injury. He's always going to be totally fine. Um, he has not showed the injury holding him back too much thus far. And more than any driver, and maybe I don't know that there is a driver track pairing as perfect as Joseph Newgarden and this Nashville Oval. He loves racing here, and you don't really have to break that much anyway. So, not a
right.
whole lot of stress on the foot. Um, for those of us who are fans of Joseph Newgarden, get really excited. I think this could be a win for him. I think this could be a win for any of the three Penske drivers. Penske
Yeah.
and this track go together great. So,
I think we're looking at Penske. If I had to pick my favorites pre-weekend, and we'll
mhm.
get into our selections, I think
Post
you're look,
qualifying when we
yeah,
can, yeah.
but I think you're looking at the three Penske cars going into the weekend. I think you're looking at the McLaren cars again. Pato does well here, was doing very well last year before his tire went down.
Yeah, Pato was
Um,
looking like a winner last
you
year
know,
before his tire went out. So I expect him to be on a bit of a revenge tour here.
I think you have to look at Will Power here
Yeah,
as well. He was again another guy who was doing really well at Phoenix when
that's right.
they had that unfortunate spotter issue is what I'm going to call it. So I look at that. Obviously, Alex, he's going to be there. Scott Dixon certainly could be there as well. So and then the MSR cars. We haven't talked about
No, we haven't
Felix,
even talked about Felix Rosenquist.
the Indy 500 winner. You know, Obviously he can drive ovals, and we've seen, we've just seen him be strong at, after that. So again, it's wide open.
Yeah. Essentially, what we're saying is we know nothing, but we cannot wait to learn.
Yeah, and because who knows, maybe there's someone coming from the back of the pack in this one, and 400 miles just gives it enough chaos to make it interesting for somebody.
400 miles is plenty of time for a driver to come from the back and take the whole damn thing.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to it. We're obviously practice and qualifying Saturday will come on after that to do our little recap of qualifying and make our predictions. And then Sunday's race day. And depending on when the race starts and ends, we'll see if we get the podcast in then or if we have to push it to Monday.
Yeah. Either way, we are in for a spectacular race. It always is at Nashville. And the changes this year and the close championship fight that we have and the way that silly season is playing out, wow, I don't think IndyCar could have chosen a better race to be the follow-up to the World Cup final. We're going to
And
have so many new eyes, and this race is going to be spectacular.
this is a good race to go into their summer break with. We've got a 2 week break after this. So,
Oh.
they're going to be hopefully testing the new car as we talked about. So we'll have stuff to talk about. But um, to have wild speculation for the 2 weeks over the summer break will be a lot of fun. So let's see how this goes. In the meantime, make sure you follow our social media channels. I am Harvey_drives. She is Fast Car Kaz, and we are Rides and Drives Team Radio.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Harvey and Kaz signing out. Get ready for a great weekend of racing.
And drive safe, everyone.